it's a high profile. It's a high end podcast.
Yeah.
Could have been any Formula One driver in the world. We had one guest a week until eventually someone guessed Damon Hill, and we had guessed the dinky driver. And for the first time since then, I brought him back for this very recording. There he is. There is Mini Damon.
Yeah,
Damon.
There
it's
he
the
is.
helmet.
Look,
It's the helmet
He's
that's
back.
giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah, and the old blue race suit, and this will delight Fast and Curious fans that Dinky Damon's made a return. There, is that going to focus? There he is.
Lovely.
Dinky
Look at
Damon.
Dinky
There he goes.
Damon.
That's one for the purists, I'd like to
Yeah.
think.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Fast and the Curious, the Formula One podcast that previews and debriefs the races and speaks to some of the biggest names inside the world of Formula One. We have got many more drivers coming very soon, by the way, so strap in for that. I'm Betty Glover. Greg James is our team principal. Greg, what are you wearing, by the way? Is that a baseball top?
Let's go Mets!
Oh,
Woo! Yeah!
I didn't know you
NYC.
liked. Yeah, I didn't know you liked
Well,
that.
I'm one of those sort of full kit that goes to see the Mets once and then goes, that's my team. But I really do like them. I'm reading a book about them at the minute. They're a really interesting team, and we welcome all sports fans on this podcast, including newbies, and I'm a baseball newbie. I went out there to see them last year, and I just sort of fell in love with how tragic they are. They're the team that almost does it. They're one of those teams. So there's a really good there's a really tragic, great storyline with them.
Well, that sort of works well for you.
That's why
That
me and
works.
Greg became friends.
Yeah, that works well for you, Greg, as well, because you're an Arsenal fan, and
That's true. No, that's
So
true.
close.
And a cricket fan, which in itself is a sport that people almost like at a push. And also the England cricket team also are kind of tragic as well over the years. So yeah, I've there's a huge affinity with the Mets, and I'm sure there'll be loads of our American and other listeners who will understand that and probably are quite big baseball fans too.
speaking of tragic, Christian Hugill is our
Betty.
resident Formula One dork. You're
Hello
back
there.
from your holiday?
Back from my holidays, and I've got the same thing. I went to see the Texas Longhorns once whilst in Austin for the Grand Prix and fell in love with them. So that's why I'm an adoptive
Child?
fan of. No, I don't think
What
so.
should I say?
No, an adoptive Texas Longhorns fan. Sorry, because you tell a bit on holiday. My brain just shut down there mid-sentence. Awful. Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm back. Welcome.
But
Hi.
anyway,
Bloody
it's
hell, I need to-
lovely to be here. And Betty, on today's show, what's going to be happening, please?
Well, we're of course going to be looking ahead to the Canadian Grand Prix, which is very exciting. But we've also got a guest with us today, everybody. It is Sky season on the Fast and the Curious. We love a bit of Sky F1. So after Crofty joined us to debrief the Spanish Grand Prix, today we've gone one step further. We've got the one and only, the main presenter, or one of the main presenters of Sky Sports F1 in the UK and all over the world. It's Simon Lazenby.
Lasers!
Clear. I like that. One step further than Crofty. That for me.
Well, you know, I've got to big you up a
Let's
bit.
just end the podcast here, shall we? He'll love that, and I love that. So thanks.
Yeah, definitely one step further. And look, can I just say, although we're saying it's Sky season and we're big fans of Sky F1, they're not sponsoring this episode. If
No.
anything, I'm sponsoring you as a fully paid up Sky subscriber. I'm actually funding this episode anyway, so we don't have to keep.
And me.
We only say that we like Sky because we like it, not because we're being paid
Sure.
to say we like it.
Hang on, they sponsored some episodes at the start of the season, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's done now. That deal.
Right, fine.
You move on. This is the fickle world of commercial podcasting. But anyway, Lasers, it's so great to have you on. We've been fans of yours for a long time. We've been chatting over the years about presentery things, and like you're someone I very much look up to as a great presenter, particularly in the sporting world. 15 years is a bloody long time to be flying around covering Formula One, but you still seem to love it. How do you manage that?
It's a life sentence, almost a life sentence, particularly, as I said, when you're travelling with Crofty. I mean, it can be seen as that, but much as I love him. But no. We manage it because we're all good friends. And I hope that comes across on our broadcast, because we spend so much time in each other's pockets, as much time as we do with our families. And if we didn't get on, it would be really awkward on air. So we do our best to have as much fun as we can on the road. And we, more often than not, we succeed in that. So I think that's perhaps the key to still enjoying it. And also, it's unbelievable sport.
It is an unbelievable. I was going to actually ask you, what is it about Formula One that makes you want to keep covering it year in, year
Because it's
out?
an addiction. And it gets into your blood and your soul and your bones. And when I started off at Sky, and I don't look it, but 27 years ago. So it's a long. That is a life sentence. But I was like, in ball sports, so I was doing rugby and football and cricket and golf, and they kind of moved me all around. And then this great opportunity came, and I've always been a traveller. I've always loved to. I've always had that kind of wanderlust, and I just always wanted to go and see the world. And what an opportunity this was to do something and cover a magnificent sport. And as I said, you're just always waiting for the next thing. There's always something round the corner, whether it's on or off track, and I just love it for that. It doesn't let you go.
Greg is going to see Pitbull later, who is, of course, Mr. Worldwide. But you are the real Mr. Worldwide because you've literally been everywhere.
What a segue
That's
there.
a lovely segue. If only I knew a lot about Pitbull. But then again, I'm not a Radio 1 DJ.
He's one of those artists that more songs than you realise. I reckon you'd know 10 Pitbull songs at least. So you are Mr. Worldwide. It's an amazing job to do, but it is exhausting. And as you said, it's good that you're all friends. But how have you managed to traverse the last sort of 5 years in terms of the amount of new eyeballs on the sport? Because it's one of the things that keeps you interested is that it evolves the whole time.
You know what? Without a shameless plug of a book I've done, I've just finished a thing called Pressure, where I've spoken to 20, 30 people up and down the pit lane, all about their individual roles, right? And every single one of them, it doesn't matter whether they're an engineer, a chef, logistics, strategy, whatever. Everyone says the last 5 years they cannot believe how it's exploded. It's just Drive to Survive, and the fact that we were the first sport back after COVID, I reckon, just put it into a different stratosphere. And as a result of that, our viewing figures have gone like that. And as you said, and exactly what this podcast does. The demographic is now a lot younger and a lot more female, and we're just having to adapt how we broadcast to the growing audience, I think.
We'll talk about your book in a second. I know Christian really wants to ask you some questions about it. But the female audience in Formula One intrigues me so much because it's got such a large female audience. Why? Obviously, Netflix plays a part in that. But why do you think that is, Simon?
They're just killing it. It's such a great... They're so marketable. They're so nice. They're so down to earth. They love each other. They're brilliant what they do. And they're just great ambassadors for the sport. And I think that helps when you've got a tranche of really good, talented youngsters coming through. It just needed that next wave to come through. And when you look at George and Lando and Oscar and Charles and all of the kids that come through, even Isaac Hadjar, I love him. I mean, Isaac Hadjar is, for me, Rookie of the Year, and Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
Just so raw, so talented, that there's a real excitement that I feel is just going to explode over the next couple of years around this next lot coming in, because I think they're ready to take over from some of the older boys.
One of the other things that's happened, I guess, just naturally, is that if you increase the number of people that want to watch the sport or watch the sport, you are going to increase the number of men and women that watch it. Because it's not like women didn't watch the sport before Drive to Survive. That would be a ridiculous thing to say. So you just have a huge pool of people now that are coming to it. And actually, people are really into this sport, I think, because the storytelling has got clearer. Not just things like Drive to Survive, but if you can invest in the drama of a sport like the Premier League or a World Cup or a Euros, you see there's a narrative. People will always love
100%.
stories. That is it. But nobody was really breaking down those stories in terms of a season length. And it felt very much like, oh yes, Damon Hill won that one. And then what happened next? Oh, I don't know. But now there's a thread. And I think people really love that. We love binging a series. We love a story. So I think that's part of it. And you're at the center of that, really, telling those stories. So I wonder how that's changed over the years as well, because you've been able to and encouraged to really get in and get to know those drivers and the people that make up the teams.
I had to fill in for Martin do the grid walk the other day. To varying, I got pied off. I got pied, and then I did not just pied by him.
Saka.
I then realised how difficult it was because you stand there as they funnel towards you to go for the anthem. Pied by Gasly. Didn't even want to look. I mean, Lando didn't want to look me in the eyes, and he'd go, Albon, who's the loveliest. And you're just thinking, I'm going down in flames here. But that said, and as awkward as it might have been for everyone watching, that's the thing. You can get close to them. They're about to, risk life and limb at 300 kilometers per hour, and they're still prepared to talk to you. Usually, so close to the start of the race.
Saka wasn't putting his life on the line. He could have bloody spoken to you.
Exactly. That's quite right, Betty. That's what I was thinking. But to be fair, everyone has their right to turn you down on the grid walk, despite what some people say. They're there to relax. And Harry Kane was great. He had a chat with me, and then I saw Big Dan Byrne, the Newcastle centre half, and he was great as well. So each to their own on it. But that's what I mean. It's about if we can take the viewer as close to the action as we can through this access, then you're able to tell the story better. And I think that's been one of the strengths of Formula One over the years. It knows how to market itself.
Simon, you mentioned the book earlier. Your book particularly sort of drills into an area of Formula One that's always in particular fancied me. Oh, sorry, I'm going to ask that again because I've just said, what's wrong with me today?
You're tired,
Words
darling.
don't make sense. I'll pick up. I'm not. I'm fine. I've had a week off. Anyway, I'll go again. Simon, your book sort of drills into an area of Formula One that's always fascinated me the most, because I mention this on the podcast quite a bit, and Betty and Greg take the mickey out of me, but I'm about to raise it in a self-depreciating way. I used to race karts, and the thing that stopped me being any good at it was not being able to deal with the pressure. Like, I couldn't deal with the pressure of race meetings with all of it. And Formula One is that times 200. So it's for that reason that I've always been fascinated with how these guys deal with pressure. Had you had a similar area of interest, in that particular bit of the sport?
I think all I wanted to, I suppose, get across is just how the ecosystem fits together. Because there's all these people, there's 300 people that travel around the world together, and they go to 24 countries, and they all have different roles, and they all need to be operating at their best level for the whole thing to work. And I mean that even from like the marketeers and the commercial guys, if they can get the commercial flywheel turning and the engineers are at the same time producing the parts to make the car faster. Case in point is McLaren right now. Everything that Zach put in place when he took over from Ron, was it 2018? Was it before then? I think it was around then. And they were going in the right direction, and then COVID happened, and then they've just gathered more and more sponsors. I know we're in a cost cap era, but that allied with great engineering, it's the ultimate team sport, and no one team is greater than the sum of their parts. And I think that's the key thing, and that's what I wanted to touch upon, that everyone from the chef to the rigger has to be doing their job correctly in order for that team to be successful. And I think that some of them never get their stories told. So it was just a good opportunity to chat to some people I've met along the way, and hopefully, enlighten people as to how it all works and fits together.
And Greg James has also just written his first grown-up book. Lots of children's
I'd like
books,
to hear
of course.
about
But
that.
I just wondered if these two esteemed authors would like a moment to talk about authory things at all. It's like having Roald Dahl and Jacqueline Wilson here with us.
Jacqueline Wilson,
Sure.
absolute hero.
Yeah.
I've got to sell a couple of copies
Yeah,
first.
well-
Guess what? It's before it comes out on the same day as Ted Kravitz's, right?
Oh.
I know.
Ooh.
I mean, he's a cult hero, for God's sake. So what chance do we have? Anyway, they're very different books, but yeah, September the 11th for the launch. But my
You
God.
should do one. You should do sort of a buy one get one half price deal together.
He's told me at the book launch
Really?
I can have a trestle table in the corner of his book launch to just flog mine, which might work.
You could just put one inside the other.
Quite right.
Yeah, I'll let you decide which one goes where.
Simon,
I don't know. Lasers is a big name. Don't besmirch your own name.
Simon, I will pay you £15 to go to Ted Kravitz's book launch, and then when Ted starts talking, just as soon as he starts talking, just stand up and go, "Sorry, 2 seconds, Ted."
Yeah, I could. I mean, I could ruin it. I could genuinely ruin it for him, and he's trying to ruin it for me. By the way,
He'd love that. He'd love
it's
that.
already got very competitive.
Well, really, in these situations, you've got to trust the viewers and the listeners. You have to, and actually, they will decide what they want to do, and by what they want to do, I mean whether they go to a bookshop and put your book in front of his or his book in front of yours. I'll let them decide what you want to do. So whoever your favorite is, cover up the other person's book with your favorite.
I feel there's only one winner here, Greg, and it ain't talking to you now.
Writing a book, though, is famously difficult and time consuming, and it's you have to really commit to it. And yes, you've got lots of time when you're traveling, but sometimes the last thing you want to do when you're jet lagged and just trying to prepare for the race is sit down and write a book about the race as well. So how have you managed that? Have you found that quite difficult?
Yeah, it's like Everest. I mean,
there's the irony is there's a pressure for you writing this bloody book, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it is genuinely. You start and you think, oh God, how many words have I got to write? Wow, that's going to take a while. But then I got into it, and half the fun was interviewing everybody. So from GP Giampiero Lambiase, so Max's race engineer, Jock Clear, who's a paddock legend, James Vowles, Zach Brown, George Russell. All these people are absolutely fascinating, and usually you only get 3 minutes on air to talk to them, but they're all so generous with their time. They sit down, they talk to you for an hour about how they got to where they got to and what drove them, what motivated them to get to where they are, and what motivates them to stay where they are. And for the drive, for all of them, it's, a lot of people want these jobs. So you've got to be good at it all the time. And that inherently is the pressure that they're all dealing with, that the stopwatch doesn't lie. And if they're not pulling it all together correctly, then it doesn't work. I mean, look at Aston Martin at the moment. They are being given the time to do it. And Andy Cowell, who I spoke to for this one, is a genius, right? I mean, he's the guy that masterminded the turbo hybrid period for Mercedes, in charge of HPP. And now him and Newey and Enrico Cardile and everyone that Lawrence has pulled together, they are expected to be at the front in 2026. And if they're not, then Lawrence is not going to stand there and say, "Oh, well, I'll just keep it as it is." They need to be performing, and I think that's the essence of, and that's what keeps us all fascinated in the sport, is just the motivation behind finding a 10th, wherever that might be. It's incredible.
Let's get on and talk about the race on Sunday in a second. But before we do, I just wanted to pick up on the fact that you said lots of people want their jobs. I would also say there's a pressure on doing jobs like you do, Simon, because there's a lot of people that would love to have your job. So I wouldn't want to do you a disservice by not including you in this, is that you do an incredibly good job. You do a brilliant job, and what is quite a difficult job as well, I think. So how do you manage to stay on top of everything while flying around the world, while trying to balance your life and your family and everything? How do you manage that? Because this is, you're at the top of your game doing this gig. This is a huge gig.
I love it, and you live it. And that's the thing. But also I try not to get so consumed by just all of the rubbish that goes along with it. And you know what it's like, Greg, if you work in this industry, there's a lot of noise, and there's you just got to focus on the job at hand. And if you do have friends up and down the paddock that you can talk to, and you are friends with all these people that you travel with, you talk and you become part of it. And I think that's the thing that I've particularly enjoyed about this sport, is because when I did other sports, you'd dip in and out. You'd go to a stadium somewhere else in the country. Whereas with this, it becomes a lifestyle. And if you're not prepared to commit your life to it, then it will probably spit you out. But I've got a really, really patient wife and 2 great kids, and they understand it. And they go, "Oh, here's Daddy. Oh, he's gone again." All that kind of stuff. And, I'm sure they love it when I've gone for a bit. But when I'm away, you are immersed in it totally. And when we come back, you pretty much are as well. I'm doing the podcast once a week. That, you've got to stay on top of everything, but you want to because it's so entertaining and so enthralling.
We'll talk more about Simon's wonderful career and the Canadian Grand Prix next on The Fast and the Curious after these messages from our sponsors.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about the Canadian Grand Prix in a moment, and also Simon's film, which is another one of the million things that he is doing with his life. But Christian, we've got some Formula One news we need to talk about.
There is news. There is breaking news. Yeah, the calendar for 2026 is out, which is always one of those moments where people get very, very excited and then realise not an awful lot is different to the previous years. But there is a few things that is different. Would you like me to tell you about them?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad, because we'd sort of given this section of the podcast to it anyway, so it would have left us with a gap if we hadn't. The big one is no Imola anymore, which I'm sad about.
I'm sad.
I like Imola. I know I like the old school races, but it's
Narrow.
a tighter track. It's not necessarily the biggest. Yeah, narrow, Simon. Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily the biggest facility. So no Imola. The Spanish Grand Prix moves to Madrid, which we spoke about over the Spanish Grand Prix weekend. But Barcelona stays on the calendar for this year, at least. They'll call it the Barcelona Grand Prix at some point, because it's got one more year of its contract. So 2 races in Spain. And then Canada moves. Now, we get asked about this all the time, about the sport being more sustainable. What's happened at the moment is F1 started its European season, and then what happens? We're all getting on a plane and going to Canada soon, which is famously not in Europe. Now, they asked Canada to move location. That proved too costly. So they've instead doing it differently. And Canada, which traditionally is in early June, has moved to the 22nd to the 24th of May. That's usually Monaco. That moves to later in June. So Canada follows Miami, and then there's a proper European season. So it's becoming a little bit more sustainable, is F1's aim. And there will be more tweaks like this as the years go on, as it's bloody complicated moving a race. You have the circuits host other things, you have weather, you have traffic things with other events. So you will see more of these tweaks slowly but surely. But yeah, still 24 races, 2 triple headers, broadly the same. Oh, and Australia starts again, which I love it starting in Australia. Australia is brilliant. So Australia has got a contract where in this contract it's going to host 5 races first. It's going to be on the calendar first 5 times, and this is the second one of those. So we get to start in Australia again, which is nice.
So who misses out? Does Italy not have a Grand Prix next year?
Monza.
No, Italy's still got Monza.
So who misses out if there's an extra Spain one?
Imola.
Yeah.
But okay,
Yeah.
so Spain get the extra one. Fine.
There you go. Yeah, Imola's gone. Madrid's
What
in for next
What can
year.
we expect from Madrid? What's that going to be like?
Well, I don't know. Right, F1 fans complained about Barcelona for years and years and years because the track isn't thrilling, although they've improved it by getting out the Faffy chicane in Sector 3. But also, fan experience-wise, it's not been great in recent years. Then F1 announced they were moving from it. Everyone got terribly upset and decided Barcelona's the greatest track in the world. And I think part of that is because F1's replacing it with a street circuit. And there are some fans that don't like street circuits. I have to be honest, seeing the on-board doesn't fill me full of excitement in the simulation they've done. But Simon, I don't know what you think. I'm sort of willing to give it a go. Madrid's a great city. I do get that the sport likes to go into city centres, so people go, "Oh, what's this?" and it attracts new fans. I get that. I'm not devastated to see the loss of Barcelona. I think F1's probably evolved past it. So I'm willing to give it a go, but without thinking it looks like the greatest motor racing circuit in the world. Is that fair, Simon?
Well, I mean, all we saw Carlos Sainz blatting around it, didn't we, in the Williams? It's not. The question marks are whether it's going to be ready in time. I mean, it's on the calendar, so that would suggest that it will be. But there were a few question marks about getting it ready for next year. As far as Barcelona is concerned, Fernando Alonso's an ambassador for it now. And he said, we'll be here for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And that's Alonso. And he carries quite a lot of weight in Spain. I think Barcelona, the reason it stayed on the calendar is just because it tests every part of the car. You can't have a weakness in your car and that not be shown up in Barcelona. So, it probably remain as a test track beyond 2026 and a fallback if it doesn't work out for Madrid, because there are a lot of Spanish fans. But then you'd argue Madrid is Spain, Barcelona's Catalonia. So could you have one in both? I don't think so. We're one of them will drop off. It will most likely be Barcelona, because it wants to go to different places. It wants to go to Bangkok. It wants to go to Africa. So it probably shouldn't it? We can't have two. It's just too much demand now for two in one country.
Get rid of Monaco, I say.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Shall
Yeah.
That's
God,
Betty
she's
being
stirring.
Betty
extra
trolling.
great.
Yeah.
I've got the fishing rod. I'm going for it. Shall we talk about the Canadian Grand Prix, though? I'm excited.
Yeah, Simon. Lasers, you're from Canada.
Well, I was. How do I put this politely? I was conceived, and then I went to Canada. Well, my parents went to Canada for 6 months, and I was born there. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
I
You're born
mean,
in
that's
Canada.
how I
You're Canadian.
suppose that's how birth works, right? But yeah,
Yeah, famously.
I was born
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
yeah, good on me.
Do you have a
It didn't take me
Canadian
50
passport?
years.
Didn't need the conceived bit, but fine.
No,
yeah,
you didn't.
but-
You could probably lose
well,
that.
you must have a Canadian passport.
I do. I have a Canadian. If I wanted one, I could have one, but I never took it up. So I still travel on a British passport. But yes, by virtue of being born in Calgary, I could consider myself a Canadian.
Well, tell us about the Canadian Grand Prix then. You're over.
Well, it is
qualified, or more
a
qualified than us,
magnificent
anyway.
track. I mean, the thing with Canada, as we know, is that more often than not, you get the rain. And when the rain comes down, you never know what might happen. There's overtaking opportunities, a lot of long straights, a lot of short corners, and the wall of champions that can catch people out. But I think that when you go to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, you think, okay, for me, it's a classic track. It's one of the best on the calendar, and more often than not, we get really good racing there. Which actually, after the last three, and again, nothing against Imola, Monaco, Barcelona, but come on, we need a real track where we can get some racing and see, separate the men from the boys. And I'm hoping that we'll get that this weekend.
On that, separating the men from the boys, where Verstappen is 39 points behind Lando Norris, isn't he? Is he out of this title race, or do you think he can get himself back in it, in your opinion?
Yeah, he didn't help himself, did he?
No.
That was everything boiling over, as we know, and he's admitted it. I mean, it's cost him, how many places did it cost him? 6, was it? So I think he's feeling like it's slipping away from him. But Max being Max and Red Bull being Red Bull, are they going to keep on developing into and beyond the summer to see whether they can do a McLaren on them, i.e. do what they did, or McLaren did to them last year? I'd like to see that, as much as I'd like to see just a solitary intra-team battle between the two McLaren boys. That's very 2016. I'd love to see, because the way that Max is driving, aside from not what he did in Barcelona, because that was awful, I think that he's driving the best he's ever driven in an underperforming car. What he's doing this year is literally, he is a genius at the peak of his powers. And it's just a shame that he goes and does stuff like he did in Barcelona, I think.
Interesting.
Fun though, fun to watch.
Great fun to watch.
Good for the story, isn't it?
It's a great story, but is it, as we say, setting the right example for the kids? If they're going out karting and they see a quadruple world champion slow down and do what they did, I think that's the thing that bothers some people. As you mentioned earlier, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last, that you see great champions kind of just lose it a little bit, and he just doesn't like losing.
That's the thing, isn't it? You can go back to the sports history. Schumacher certainly had these moments, and so many of the really big names have had these moments where that desire, and this is, by the way, not excusing him here, but where that desire to win bubbles over, and that relentless desire to be the best bubbles over. And I think we saw that with Max, and I say you saw it with Michael Schumacher. I could list countless legends, and I think we saw that. But yeah, Betty, to your point about Canada, I just think you so rarely get a bad Canadian Grand Prix, which is lovely. And you often get weather, and that is why some behind the scenes for you all here, and you'll be fascinated. Just to my left in my recording room here is my bag where I'm packing, and I can exclusively reveal the waterproof boots are in preparation for Canada. It is essential for Canada.
Very important.
Also, this is the famous groundhog,
It is,
isn't it? This what's he called? Woodchuck.
Yeah.
he's going to get
They
squashed.
do kind of. They're risking it. They're risking all those lads and lasses.
Bravery.
They are very brave.
They're more kamikaze
Stroke
than
stupid.
Max.
They need to build one of those tunnels to help them.
Maybe they've been inspired. Maybe these are the kids you're talking about. Maybe it's the groundhogs are watching Max Verstappen and they're like, I'm going to go and cause some mayhem on that circuit.
I love those guys. Love them.
Simon, just before we let you go, we mentioned their legends. You have done a film, as well, as Betty said earlier, not content with flying over the world, presenting on the television and writing a book. You've also done a film, because you are the world's busiest man, a film with a legend. Now, we had one of these legends that the film focuses on the podcast a little earlier in the year, Damon Hill, wonderful man. And I'm so excited to watch this when it comes out on Sky. It's out very soon. It's out within the next month or 2 months, I believe.
Yep.
I'm very excited to watch this. Simon, tell us a little bit about Hill.
Yeah, it's out the Thursday of the British Grand Prix week on Sky Docs. So, funnily enough, it's good timing because we started talking about this in 2018, just after the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal Airport, having a beer, and we were talking about sports stocks that we'd enjoyed, and obviously we talked about Senna, but we also talked about The Last Dance and stuff. And I was starting up a company specifically because I love stories, like you were just talking about there. It's just that's how Greg and I know each other, funnily enough, because in the time it's taken to get this one made, we got our McEnroe documentary away, and Felix, very talented musician and part of Tailenders with Greg, did the score for that. So we got talking, then there were all sorts of legal. It gets very hard to make a documentary now to raise all the finance, but it's such a good story. It's sort of the tale of his father, who was a double world champion, who lost his life when he was flying his team back from testing at Paul Ricard in a tragic air accident. He crashed the plane. They were left with nothing, and Damon had to build his way back up and emulate his father. And it's kind of like, you could almost say it's like Shakespearean in that it's tragedy. And then at the end, when he does emulate his father without giving it away and takes the title, and Murray Walker.
Oh, Simon, no spoilers,
Sorry,
please.
mate.
I've not caught up on
Sorry.
1996 yet. Come on.
Yeah, he does. And Murray says those immortal words, almost the most famous commentary line, I think, is, and I've got to stop because I've got a lump in my throat. And it was because of everything that he'd been through. So, I know I'm biased, but I do think it's one of the best stories that's yet to be told, although it's about to be told. And hopefully F1 fans will find a lot to love in it.
So when's that out? Just before the British Grand Prix?
Just before the British Grand Prix, yes. And if you'd all like to come along, there's a screening on the 1st. So I shall send you an invite after this.
Ooh, I'd love to.
Yeah,
Lovely. Yeah, I don't know enough about that story, actually. And I know that happened.
Well,
I can't wait to watch it.
yeah,
I love.
I grew up. Sorry, Greg. I grew up with my dad loved the Graham Hill story and loved Graham Hill. So I grew up. I sort of caught the tail end of Damon's era, but really grew up with my dad sort of telling me about the legend of Graham. So I'm really excited to sort of go into that. And then Damon, I've mentioned so many times that Damon's win in 1998 at the Belgian Grand Prix was like my first big memory of the sport. I've got a picture frame of it over there. So like the two men, like it's remarkable. I will be so excited to watch this. Simon very kindly sent me a preview link, which I'm going to look forward to watching.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
Well, it's the parallels between the pair of them as well, because like they were, in '68 Lotus, like Jim Clark was teammates with Graham Hill, and he lost his life. And then, of course, the same thing happened to Damon with Senna in '94. So there's all these kind of eerie things that mirrored each other. And Damon went into a lot of therapy following the end of his career because he just hadn't had time to process it all. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that, it took him a long time to unpack it. And I think that this is still part of him doing that, because it was, it's an incredible story. So our director, Alex Holmes, has done a fantastic job, and hopefully people will enjoy it, because I think it's been worth telling.
Oh, well, congratulations on that. That is brilliant. The synopsis is one name, two world champions. Love that.
Yeah.
And
Love
also,
that little tagline.
Yeah, it's good.
and Damon was a key part of the Fast and the Curious last year, in that Simon, I put a small figurine of a racing driver in my old soundproofing that used to sit behind me.
Yeah.
And our listeners had to guess
It is tragic,
which that driver
his
was. It's a high profile. It's a high end podcast.
Yeah.
Could have been any Formula One driver in the world. We had one guess a week until eventually someone guessed Damon Hill, and we had guessed the dinky driver. And for the first time since then. I brought him back for this very
Hold
recording.
on.
There he is. There is Mini Damon.
Dinky Damon.
There he
it's
is,
the
look.
helmet. It's the helmet.
He's
It's
back.
giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah, and the old blue race suit. And this will delight Fast and Curious fans that Dinky Damon's made a return. There, is that going to focus? There he is,
Lovely.
Dinky
Look at
Damon.
Dinky
There he
Damon.
goes. That's one for the purists, I'd like to
Yeah.
think. There.
And one for the YouTube viewers as well.
And one for the YouTube viewers, yes. You can watch us on YouTube if you'd like, and please subscribe because it helps with the numbers.
Right, come on then. Let's have some predictions and then we'll get out of here. And Christian, you're going to forward on that link to Hill, the documentary, please.
Oh, yes.
I'll send you that. Joe.
Don't keep that to yourself.
That might have run out,
Christian.
that link, Christian. We'll have to
Yeah,
get
sure.
you another one.
Oh,
Well,
I'm
give us-
sorry,
send-
Simon. Oh, for God's sake, I've left time.
Send me and Betty a new
Yeah.
one, please, Lasers. Okay, top three. What's your podium this weekend,
Right,
Lasers?
I am going to go, and I backed him at the start of the year, right? Whereas everybody else decided that they're going to very quickly switch to Oscar. I think I'm going to go Lando, and then I'm going to go Max, the sandwich in between, and then Oscar. So I think it's going to be the top three in the championship. I think that Red Bull will be better here. But let's see. Let's see. I think that Lando, as I said, if he can sort his head out, I think the raw speed is still there. But
Oh, yeah.
you know, he's got to get that sorted very, very quickly. Otherwise, I could see Oscar continuing this because he's just so strong mentally.
Yeah, he's so good, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think I agree with you with Lando. I was going to go Lando first, then Oscar, and then Max, because I just can't see Red Bull beating McLaren at the moment. But I mean, bring it on if they do. But yeah, I'm going to go for that.
Oscar, Russell, Lando.
I'd love to see George, by the way. He's also driving like a bat out of hell
so
at the
well.
moment.
And good in Canada last year as well.
That's why I said that.
That's why you said that, absolutely. I will, in that case, go Lando, Oscar, Max is my top three. Lando, Oscar, Max.
No
There
one's
we go. Well, this
backing
has been fun.
Ferrari.
No.
I don't fancy them in Canada. I don't know why. I just don't fancy them in Canada.
I'd love Ferrari to come back and just.
I will love it if we beat them. I will love
Love
it.
it if we beat them. Love it
They've
if
got
we
that
beat
upgrade, haven't they? They reckon it's Silverstone where they sort out their rear suspension. But I think until then, at the moment, it's damage and limitation. Old
Sorry,
Or
could
a
you?
little Lewis Silverstone.
Yeah.
moment
I was
would be
just
nice,
about to
wouldn't
say,
it?
I'd end up bloody crying again if that happens. If Lewis wins, I mean, won last year, wins at Silverstone after a Ferrari upgrade. I mean,
That would be cool.
yeah, that would be cool. Could you imagine? I'd be full on crying there. Second time.
Lewis
in
is
a
good
year.
in Canada, though. He's good in Canada as well. So
He is.
never know. You never know.
Let's see how it
His
shakes down,
first,
shall we?
his first Grand Prix win in Canada, I believe. Simon, correct me if I'm wrong. 18 years ago this week,
Yeah,
is that
it
right?
would have been, wouldn't it? Yeah, 2007. Yeah.
Oh, I'll get
dear.
picked up in the comments if it's not. But I think, yeah,
off the top of my head, Christian, I'd say just cut that bit out. Yeah, you'll save yourself a lot of hassle. And
hang on,
you've
I'm
got us
googling.
both out there. So yeah, let's go.
2007
It
Canadian Grand Prix. I'm not very good at maths. Is
That
that
is
18
18,
years
yes.
ago? 2007.
So we got it right.
Yes,
So
Ah.
leave
it
it
is,
in.
yeah.
Thank you. The authors in the room for confirming, the clever people confirming the maths. Lovely.
Leave that in.
They leave that in. Producer Fiona, leave that in. Thank you very much. I don't get much right. We'll have that. Good. Shall we end it? We'll quit while we're ahead.
That is the end of the Fast and the Curious podcast for today. Lasers, you're back on the telly. Give us the race times. Be useful, please. Give
Oh
us something
God,
useful.
Yeah.
really
There
are
we go.
catching me out now, aren't they? Just let me go.
What time are we waking up and watching?
suggest Race times.
You're staying
are
up.
in the
Yeah, it's late.
evening. How far behind are we? We're 5 hours behind when we're in Canada. So I think
Can tell you qualifying starts at 9, but my app's not refreshing for the race.
Hold on,
But qualifying
hold on.
starts at 9 p.m.
God,
UK time.
all I had was one job. This is what I've been told.
I
Make sure
reckon
you
the
give-
race is 8
It says
p.m.
seven. It says
I
seven.
gotcha. Race at 1900.
That's 7
That's all
p.m.
right. That's a great time.
Yeah, it's perfect. And
Yeah,
qualifying
lovely.
at 9 p.m.
And And me and Betty will be back to debrief the Canadian Grand Prix on Sunday. Gregory, I don't believe you're with us because it's very late finish and there's a breakfast
What will
show
it
the
be? A
following
late
day.
night, well, sort of 9:30ish.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Well, if I'm up, I'll jump on. How about that?
All right, there you go. If Greg is still awake, famously gets up early, we'll have Greg as well. Me and Betty will be back. Simon Lazenby, thank you so much for joining us. You're a legend.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Betty. Thanks, Greg. Amazing to come on. Brilliant. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Loved having you, lasers. Enjoy Canada, and thanks for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe and come back for more on Sunday night, probably Monday morning for the debrief. It'll be out in your feeds, so make sure you subscribe. See ya. Get out of here.
bye.
Bye bye.